can I ask you a favor? Could you please look at the student of the scientist who's reading a book? I know it's ambiguous and a bit confusing because who is actually reading the book, right? But I'm sure you have a preference as to which image best represents what I just said. And I also bet it was the last picture you looked at, wasn't it? I'm not exactly a mind reader. I'm a psycholinguist, working with bilinguals to explore how they process language, and in particular, how they interpret their mother tongue in real time, and whether this may change as a result of bilingualism. These changes occur because their two languages constantly influence each other. Just picture them as two dancers in a big room. When we begin to study another language, they'll be like two strangers awkwardly forced to dance together. They'll be shy and keep a distance, but the more we study, the more competent we become, and the more we're exposed to the language, the closer they will get. But what do these images have to do with bilingualism? Well, they represent two potential interpretations of the same sentence, and interestingly, each language has its own interpretation preferences, like having its own moves. For example, while a Spanish native would typically interpret that it is the student who's reading the book and therefore prefer the picture on the left, an English native would typically interpret the opposite. So, what about a Spanish-English bilingual? If you like dancing, you'll know that one dancer usually takes the leading role, while the other one mirrors the moves. And although we may assume that our mother tongue will take the lead, that's not always the case, as it can also adapt and imitate the moves of our second language. To explore this, I tested Spanish-English bilinguals living in Spain who are extensively exposed to English in a classroom setting. I showed them pictures and monitored their eye movements while they heard sentences like the one mentioned earlier, because it's impossible to know exactly what's going on in the brain. But eyes, they never lie. And depending on where people look, I get to know how they represent language in their minds in real time. It's like having a front row seat to see how closely their language stands and which one takes the lead. Results prove that bilinguals interpret their mother tongue in the English way, and this will allow us to develop more effective teaching methods because they're experiencing cognitive changes in our classrooms that we must address. You know what they say? Sometimes a look is worth 1,000 words. Thank you.